Your business is growing. Revenue is up. You're adding customers, maybe even adding staff. On paper, things look good, but here's the problem. You're working harder than ever. Your bank account doesn't reflect the growth. Your team is stretched thin, and honestly, you're not sure how much longer you can keep this up. If that's you, this video is going to hit home. I'm Jacqueline Jensen, a professional EOS implementer working with business owners across North Metro Atlanta and Georgia. And today, I'm going to walk you through the hidden costs of growing without a system. These are the costs that don't show up on your profit and loss statement, but are quietly draining your business, your team, and your life. We're talking about the wasted time, lost revenue, burned out people, and missed opportunities that you can't get back. Before I became an EOS implementer, I lived this. I was managing a country club with 120 employees. We were busy. We had member events, projects, but we were succeeding in spite of ourselves. There was no structure, no consistent way of doing things, no clear data telling us if we were actually winning or just staying afloat. And the cost of that chaos showed up everywhere. High turnover, mistakes that got repeated, my own burnout working 70 to 80 hours a week. We were growing, but it didn't feel like success. It felt like survival. That changed when I discovered EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and self-implemented it in 2019. Suddenly, we had clarity, we had structure, we had data, and the results were undeniable. Turnover dropped by 34%. We more than doubled our profits in less than 3 years, and I got my life back. That's what a system does. It turns chaos into clarity and growth into real sustainable profit. Today, I'm going to show you what's really costing you to grow without a system and how EOS fixes it. Let's dive in. Let me start with a hard truth. Growth is not the same as success. You can grow revenue and still lose money. You can add customers and still burn out your team. You can get busier and still feel like you're spinning your wheels. Why? Because growth without structure is just organized chaos that eventually becomes disorganized chaos. Here's what I see all the time in Georgia businesses. A trades company wins a big contract. Great news, right? Except now they're scrambling to find workers, their processes can't handle the volume, mistakes start happening, and the owner is working weekends just to keep up. Or a family business expands to a second location. Sounds like progress, but they replicate all the problems from the first location because they never documented what actually works. Or a professional services firm hires more people to handle growth, but those people don't know how things are done. So quality drops, clients complain, and the team gets frustrated. In every case, growth is happening, but without a system, that growth creates more problems than it solves. And those problems have a real cost. Let me break them down. Hidden cost number 1, wasted time and lost productivity. The first hidden cost is time. Specifically, the hours your team wastes every single week because there's no structure, no clear processes, and no consistent way of doing things. Think about how much time gets lost to confusion. Someone doesn't know who's responsible for a task, so they ask around. That's 15 minutes. A meeting gets scheduled to discuss an issue that should have been solved weeks ago. That's an hour. A customer asks a question and 3 different people give 3 different answers because there's no documented process. That's wasted time and a frustrated customer. Add it all up, and companies without systems lose massive amounts of productivity. Research shows that the average knowledge worker spends 20% of their time just looking for information or tracking down answers. For a team of 10 people, that's 2 full-time employees worth of productivity lost every single week. For a $10 million company, that could be $200,000 a year wasted in payroll doing activities that shouldn't need to be done. Let me give you a real example. When I was running the country club, we didn't have documented processes for onboarding new employees. Every manager did it their own way. Some were great at it, some weren't. New hires would show up, not know where to go, not know what was expected of them, and end up asking the same questions over and over. We were spending hours every week just trying to get new people up to speed. And because the training was inconsistent, turnover was high. People would leave in the first 90 days because they never felt set up for success. When we implemented EOS, one of the things we did was document our core processes. We identified a handful of essential processes that drove 80% of our results. Hiring and onboarding was one of them. We mapped out every step, created a checklist, and trained every manager to follow it the same way. Suddenly, new hires knew exactly what to expect. Training time dropped, mistakes dropped, and turnover in the first 90 days nearly disappeared. That's what process does. It saves time, improves quality, and frees your team to focus on work that actually moves a business forward. The second hidden cost is revenue, specifically the money you're leaving on the table because your team isn't aligned, your processes are inconsistent, and opportunities slip through the cracks. Let me ask you a question. How many potential customers never heard back from your team because the lead got lost? How many projects went over budget because there was no clear scope or accountability? How many upsell opportunities were missed because your team didn't know they existed or didn't have the process to identify them? These revenue leaks are invisible until you start looking at them, and they're expensive. Industry data shows that mid-sized distributors lose 3 to 6% of their total revenue every year to inefficiencies, duplicated work, or missed opportunities. For a $10 million company, that's $300,000 to $600,000 vanishing before the year even ends. That's not small change. That's the difference between a good year and a great year. That's the difference between owner sanity and owner burnout. I see this all the time in Georgia. A trades business lands a job, but the team doesn't communicate well, so materials get ordered twice. Work gets redone, and the margin disappears. Or a retail business has inventory sitting on the shelf because nobody's tracking what's moving and what's not. Or a professional services firm underbills clients because there's no clear process for tracking billable hours. These aren't huge dramatic failures. They're small leaks that happen every single day, and over time, they add up to massive losses. Here's what changes when you implement EOS. You start running your business on data, not opinions. You create a scorecard with a handful of weekly numbers that tell you if you're on track. These aren't lagging indicators like monthly revenue that tell you what already happened. These are leading indicators that predict success. Things like weekly leads, conversion rates, customer satisfaction scores, inventory turns, billable hours. When you track the right numbers every week, you spot problems early. You see the revenue leak before it becomes a flood. And you can course correct in real time instead of waiting until the end of the month when it's too late. Let me give you an example from my own experience. When we implemented EOS at the country club, one of the numbers we started tracking was comps in the dining room. Basically meals that were given away for free or discounted because of a mistake. Until we tracked it, we had no idea how much we were losing until the month was closed. Once we put it on the scorecard, we realized we were comping thousands of dollars a month. We dug into why. We tracked it down to a training issue that originated in the onboarding process. We corrected it and updated that process, retrained the team, and within 90 days, comps dropped by over 70%. That's real money back in the business just from tracking one number and solving the root cause. The third hidden cost is growth itself. Specifically, what happens when you hit the ceiling and can't break through? You've grown to 2 million, 5 million, 9 million in revenue, and suddenly you're stuck. What worked to get you here isn't working anymore. Adding more people just creates more chaos. You feel like you're running harder and harder just to stay in place. This is one of the 5 core frustrations that Gino Wickman, the creator of EOS, identified. It's the feeling that you've hit a wall and don't know how to push through. And it's incredibly common. Why? Because every business naturally hits ceilings as it grows, and to break through, you need more than hustle. You need structure, systems, and scalable processes. Let me explain what causes hitting the ceiling. When you're small, you can run on hustle and relationships. The owner knows every customer, makes every decision, and puts out every fire. That works up to a point. But as you grow, complexity increases. More customers, more employees, more moving parts. And if you don't have systems to handle that complexity, everything slows down. Decisions take longer, quality becomes inconsistent, mistakes multiply, and the owner becomes the bottleneck because everything still needs to flow through them. I see this constantly in family businesses and trade companies across Georgia. The business grows to a certain size and then growth stalls. The owner is maxed out, the team is overwhelmed, nobody can take on more work because they're barely keeping up with what they have. And the idea of scaling feels impossible because it would just mean more chaos. Here's what EOS teaches. To break through the ceiling, you have to do 5 things. You have to simplify, you have to delegate, you have to predict, you have to systemize, and you have to structure. Let me break those down quickly. Simplifying means dumbing down the organization. As an EOS implementer, we often say less is more. Everything about EOS is designed to make you better at simplifying your business. Delegate means empowering your team to make decisions and own outcomes. You can't scale if you're still making every decision. EOS gives you tools like the accountability chart and the people analyzer to make sure that you have the right people in the right seats with clear accountability. And once you do, you must delegate and elevate to your unique ability. Predict means strengthening your ability to predict long-term, that's more than 90 days away, and short-term, that's within the next 90 days, results well. This allows you to course correct quickly and remain nimble in the ever-changing business environment. Systemize means documenting your core processes so everyone does the most important things the right and best way every time. This creates consistency, reduces mistakes, and makes it way easier to onboard new people as you grow. Process is what allows you to scale without losing quality or control. And lastly, structure. Structure means building the right organizational structure for where you are going, not just where you are. The accountability chart helps you see what seats you need even if you can't fill them all today. It gives you a roadmap for growth instead of just reacting when you're already overwhelmed. When you do these 5 things, you break through the ceiling. Growth becomes manageable again, and scaling doesn't feel like chaos. It feels like progress. The 4th hidden cost is your people. Specifically, what happens when you grow without systems and your team burns out, disengages, or leaves? High turnover is expensive. It costs time to recruit and interview, it costs money to train new people, and it costs momentum because every time someone leaves, you lose institutional knowledge in the team chemistry. Industry data shows that replacing an employee costs anywhere from 50% to 200% of their annual salary, depending on the role. So for a $50,000 employee, that's $25,000 to $100,000 every time you have to replace them. But the real cost isn't just financial, it's cultural. When good people leave, it demoralizes the team. The people who stay have to pick up the slack, they work harder, get frustrated, and start looking for the door themselves. And before you know it, you're stuck in a cycle of turnover that's hard to break. Why does this happen? Because growth without systems creates chaos, and chaos burns people out. Your team doesn't know what's expected. Roles overlap, priorities shift every week, problems don't get solved, and people feel like they're spinning their wheels with no progress to show for it. Let me tell you what happened at the country club before we implemented EOS. Turnover was killing us. We were losing 30 to 40% of our staff every year. And it wasn't because we paid poorly or treated people badly. It was because we didn't have structure. People didn't know what success looked like in their roles. Managers weren't trained to lead well. Issues festered instead of getting solved, and over time, good people just gave up and left. When we implemented EOS, everything changed. We built an accountability chart so everyone knew what they owned. We set core values so people understood how to show up at work. We started running level 10 meetings every week so issues got solved instead of getting ignored. And we used the people analyzer to make sure everyone was in the right seat. Within a year, turnover dropped by 34%. And it wasn't because we changed the work. It was because we gave people clarity, structure, and a voice. That's what systems do. They create a culture where people can thrive. The fifth hidden cost is you, the owner, the leader, the person who started this business for freedom and control and instead got a second job that never ends. Let me be real with you. The cost of growing without a system shows up in your stress, your health, your relationships, and your life. You're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. You're missing your kids' games. You're skipping vacations because you can't step away. You're lying awake at night wondering how you're going to make payroll or if that key employee is going to quit. And you're asking yourself, is this really worth it? According to recent data, 55% of small business owners in Georgia feel trapped and want to leave their business but can't, largely due to burnout and stress, not just money. That's more than half of all owners. Think about that. People who built something from nothing, who have talent and drive, who care deeply about their work, are miserable. Why? Because they're operating without a system. They're reacting instead of leading, they're firefighting instead of building, and they can't see a way out. I lived this. At 28, I was managing 120 employees, overseeing millions in renovations, working 80 hours a week. And honestly, I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep going. I felt lonely. Everyone had an opinion about what I should do. My actions were criticized, and I was just trying to keep everything from falling apart. That's not leadership, that's survival. And survival is exhausting. Here's what changed when I implemented EOS. I got my time back. I got my confidence back. And I got my life back. Why? Because a system took the weight off my shoulders. I didn't have to make every decision anymore. I didn't have to solve every problem. I didn't have to be in every meeting. My team stepped up because they had clarity, tools, and accountability. And I could finally take a step back and lead instead of manage. That's what every owner wants. Peace of mind. The ability to take a vacation without everything falling apart. The confidence that a business will run without them micromanaging every detail. And EOS delivers that. Not overnight, but over time as you strengthen all of the 6 key components. Let me paint you 2 pictures. Picture 1 is chaos. You're growing, but it's messy. Revenue is up, but profit is flat or shrinking. Your team is busy, but nothing important is getting done. Meetings are painful, issues repeat, processes are inconsistent, people are frustrated, and you, the owner, are working more hours than ever just to keep the wheels on. Picture 2 is clarity. You're running on EOS. Every person on your team knows where the company is going because you've answered the 8 questions in the Vision Traction Organizer. Everyone knows what they're accountable for because you built an accountability chart. Everyone knows if you're winning because you track weekly numbers on a scorecard. Issues get solved fast using IDS in your level 10 meetings. Your core processes are documented and followed by everyone. And your team is hitting rocks every 90 days, making real, measurable progress. Which picture do you want? Because the difference isn't luck, it's not talent, it's not market conditions, it's a system. Companies running on EOS report gaining back over half their wasted time in decision-making within weeks. They see visible progress in the first quarter, less drama, fewer surprises, and actual results instead of plans gathering dust. Turnover drops, profits improve, and owners get their lives back. Let me share a real story. I have a client who came to me in November of 2024. Multiple location business, growing fast, but they told me, we're succeeding in spite of ourselves. They knew they were lucky, but they also knew luck doesn't last. By July of 2025, after implementing EOS, they said, this is the first time in years I feel hopeful. In December of 2025, location number 7 is set to open. By February of 2026, location 8 is on the horizon. That's what happens when you combine clarity with accountability. Real growth, real hope, real results. What changes when you implement EOS? Let me break down what actually changes when you implement EOS and start strengthening all 6 key components. First, vision. Everyone gets on the same page. You answer 8 critical questions. What are your core values? What's your core focus? What's your 10-year target? What's your marketing strategy? What's your 3-year picture? What's your 1-year plan? What are your quarterly rocks? And what are your issues? When everyone knows the answers, decisions get easier. Confusion drops, and the team rows in the same direction. Second, people. You get the right people in the right seats. The accountability chart clarifies who owns what. The people analyzer helps you evaluate if someone gets it, wants it, and has the capacity. Culture strengthens, drama drops, and high performers thrive because they're not carrying dead weight. Third, data. You run your business on numbers, not emotion. The scorecard gives you 5 to 15 weekly metrics that predict success. Every leader owns 1 or 2 numbers. You stop problems early, you make faster, smarter decisions, and you stop guessing. Fourth, issues. You build a culture of transparency and problem solving. The issues list captures obstacles and opportunities. IDS solves them for good. Trust increases, accountability increases, and you stop discussing the same problems for months. Fifth, process. You document your core processes. Everyone does the most important things the right and best way every time. Quality improves, training gets faster, mistakes drop, and you can scale without losing control. 6, traction. You execute with discipline. Rocks keep you focused on the top 3 to 7 priorities every quarter. The level 10 meeting creates a weekly rhythm, and quarter after quarter, you make real, measurable progress. That's the EOS model, 6 key components. When you strengthen all 6, your business becomes more focused, more profitable, and healthier. You stop reacting and start leading, and growth becomes sustainable. Let me share another example. An agency in Georgia that had been growing for 20 plus years implemented EOS in 2012. Before EOS, growth was unpredictable. After EOS, they went from $7 million in revenue to over $25 million in revenue in about 12 years. But more importantly, their team grew from 28 employees to 92. And they did it without chaos. How? Because they had systems, they had clarity, they had structure. Every person knew their role, every leader owned their numbers, and every quarter they set rocks and finished them. That's what disciplined execution looks like. Or look at a construction company in North Georgia. They used EOS to standardize their bidding and project management processes. Before, every project manager did things their own way. Quality was inconsistent. Mistakes were common. After documenting their core processes and training everyone to follow them, rework dropped significantly. Projects finished on time, clients were happier, and margins improved. That's the power of process and traction working together. If you're sitting here thinking, this is me, I'm growing without a system and it's costing me, here's what I want you to do. First, read Traction by Gino Wickman. It's a foundational book that explains EOS in plain English. You'll see yourself in the stories and you'll start to understand what's possible when you implement a complete operating system. Second, take the free EOS organizational checkup, a simple assessment that shows you how strong or weak your business is in the 6 key components: vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. It takes about 10 minutes and it'll give you clarity on where to start. And third, if you're ready to go deeper, if you want expert guidance to implement EOS the right way, book a free 90-minute meeting with me. We'll talk about your business, your challenges, and whether EOS is the right fit. There's no contract, no pressure, just clarity. And even if you decide not to move forward, you'll walk away with at least one thing you can do right now to reduce the hidden costs in your business. Growth without a system is expensive. It costs you time, money, people, and peace of mind. It turns progress into chaos and potential into frustration. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can grow it with clarity. You can scale with structure. You can build a business that runs smoothly, profitably, and sustainably. It just requires a system. EOS gives you that system. It's not magic. It's not a silver bullet. It's just a set of simple, practical tools built on timeless principles that work. And when you strengthen all 6 key components, everything changes. Your team aligns, your data drives decisions, your issues get solved, your processes create consistency, and your execution becomes disciplined and predictable. I'm Jacqueline Jensen, and I help Georgia business owners run better companies so they can live better lives. If this video resonated with you, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, and let me know what hidden costs hit closest to home for you. And if you're ready to stop paying the price of chaos and start building with clarity, visit my website and book a 90-minute meeting. Let's turn your growth into real, sustainable success. Thanks for watching.